Hello and welcome to this edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Brittany Ramsey. It's one of the darkest periods in Canadian history, and now the Ontario government is taking steps to locate and preserve residential school burial sites. On Tuesday, Premier Doug Ford announced $10 million over the next 3 years to investigate, protect, and commemorate those sites. Adam Riley has details.
Along the shores of Lake of the Woods near Washishkanigam First Nation, the memorial to honor the students who attended St. Mary's Indian Residential School has grown to include tributes to the 215 children who were discovered in an unmarked burial site in Kamloops, BC. A similar memorial near the grounds of the former Cecilia Jeffrey Indian Residential School has also become a shrine to honor those children.
I wish that I could say that this was an anomaly and such news will never happen again. Unfortunately, it may not be the case.
Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford says in Ontario there are at least 12 unmarked burial sites associated with Indian residential schools across the province, with more than 400 students who are presumed to have died at those schools. It was those grim numbers which served as a precursor for the announcement of $10 million over the next 3 years by the province, which will be used to investigate, protect, and commemorate those sites. Rickford says the key to this project is that it must be led from an Indigenous perspective with proper support from the province, noting investigations have already started in Treaty 3 territory prior to the announcement.
So we want to be able to just provide a broader platform of capacity, pathology, forensics, other digital expertise and capacity, as well as you mentioned, considerable financial resource to support ongoing activities that are being led currently.
In addition to the investigations, the funding will also go towards culturally appropriate trauma-informed mental health support services for residential school survivors, their families, and Indigenous communities. Rickford was joined in Kenora by Grand Council Treaty No. 3 Ogichita Francis Kavanagh, who says while he is pleased the province moved quickly and was one of the first to offer funding, he is concerned about the amount.
I don't know, province-wide, I don't know if that's going to be enough, because we're going to require, some high-level people, professionals to help us in this endeavor. You're going to probably require something like a forensic pathologist to help assist us identifying remains and this and that.
In northwestern Ontario, there were a total of 9 residential schools, 4 of which, like Kamloops, were run by the Catholic Church, which Kavanagh wants to see be held accountable in some way, shape, or form.
The Catholic Church needs to come forward and make efforts to bring the Pope to Canada for a formal apology to all First Nations across Canada.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
Meanwhile, opposition MPP Sol Mamakwa is taking the Ford government to task following Tuesday's announcement. While he welcomes the $10 million pledged to search for more remains like those recently found in BC, Mamakwa says as the only MPP who actually went to a residential school, he should have been consulted. And he says Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford specifically told him that he would be. Ryan Benazzo reports.
Kiiwetinoong MPP Sol Mamakwa welcomes the government's $10 million commitment to investigate former residential school sites across Ontario. But he doesn't feel there was proper consultation beforehand.
I keep telling them I'm here if you need some advice.
Mamakwa took aim at the Indigenous Affairs Minister following Tuesday's announcement, saying on Twitter, "I am the only Ontario MPP that went to residential school. Greg Rickford told me I would be briefed about the announcement. This did not happen. I am stunned by this government's continued lack of understanding and respect."
He said to me, we're doing an announcement very shortly, and told me that, that I will get briefed before the announcement.
But Mamakwa says he saw it on TV like everyone else.
I wish that I could say that this was an anomaly.
While he was meeting with a group of Indigenous experts he had convened to discuss next steps. Mamakwa calls this lack of consultation itself an act of colonialism.
I have, the lived experience, and they don't. And I think they should have the courtesy to reach out and try and at least work with me, but not try to score political points.
Rickford's office did not reply to our request for comment. Mamakwa is glad that the work will begin in this province, but he says the Indigenous community and all Canadians need to brace themselves for more painful discoveries like the one in Kamloops.
It's going to go on, repeat, 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 repeat. And that's the true history of Canada, and we have to be ready for it.
Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
A pair of motor vehicle collisions in the Kenora area last weekend sent 2 people to hospital with life-threatening injuries. The first occurred shortly after midnight on June 12th on Highway 525. A vehicle struck a rock cut, ejected the driver, and the vehicle caught on fire. The second crash occurred shortly before 10 o'clock on June 12th on 9th Street North. A motorcycle collided with a pickup truck. Both collisions are being investigated by the OPP, and anyone with information is asked to contact police. Meanwhile, the OPP checkpoints at the Ontario-Manitoba and Ontario-Quebec borders were removed this week as the province loosened its cross-border restrictions. The checkpoints were first set up in mid-April as COVID cases were surging in all 3 provinces. Only essential travelers and Ontario residents were allowed to enter the province, and many Winnipeggers with cottages in the Northwest were turned away. Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford, who's riding borders Manitoba, says the province has worked hard to lower its COVID numbers, and he hopes people coming in from Manitoba act responsibly, follow protocols, and understand hospitals in the area have limited capacity for any potential outbreaks that could result.
I've had communications with the Deputy Premier. There's obviously an urgency by Manitoba folks, many who've been vaccinated, who want to check up on their property, get work done, and enjoy Lake of the Woods. But they'll know when they come here, they have to be safe. And I think the province of Ontario has a host of requirements for them when visiting outside the jurisdiction that they'll be required to meet. This has always been about good faith and people's personal, individual responsibilities to do the right thing.
On Friday, Premier Doug Ford shuffled his cabinet, and unlike his previous shuffle in 2019, there will be an impact here in the Northwest. Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford has had the energy portfolio dropped in favor of natural resources. That means Rickford is now the Minister of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources and Forestry. He also maintains his role as Minister of Indigenous Affairs. And you can count Thunder Bay's top doctor among those who believe Ontario should accelerate its reopening plan. As case counts decline and the vaccination rate increases, Dr. Janet DeMille said she'd be comfortable moving into stage 2. Now, Ryan Benazzo has more.
As the Ford government faces increased pressure to move more quickly through the economic reopening steps, Thunder Bay's District Medical Officer of Health says she's on board.
I would be comfortable if we were to open up sooner into step 2.
The reason, says Dr. Janet DeMille, is of course the rising vaccination rate, which has led to a steady decline in COVID-19 cases.
They're dropping here, but also in the province and in the country, and that's a very reassuring. And you know, at the same time, our immunization rate is going up, so that's providing not only individual protection, but a community-level protection.
According to the latest available numbers released earlier this week, 72% of eligible people in the Thunder Bay District have received at least one shot, and nearly 19% are fully vaccinated. But one age group is lagging a bit behind. Just 61% of those 30 to 39 have gotten the jab, more than 5 percentage points less than any other adult age group. DeMille says it's not a cause for concern yet.
As long as we're seeing sort of that increase, you know, that's good. I think, though, at certain points we'll look at, well, what's lagging behind, and try to ask, you know, why is that lagging behind, whether it's an age group or a location. And then how do we promote the vaccine into that age group? What are the barriers that they might be experiencing? And then making sure that they have access to that.
Young adults, however, are doing their part. The 18 to 29 group has surged past the older millennials and has nearly caught 40 to 49-year-olds, despite becoming eligible weeks later. Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
City of Thunder Bay officials say they plan to meet with district municipalities and First Nations late this summer about the new 10-year Superior North EMS master plan. Now, that's assuming public health restrictions allow them to meet in person. Thunder Bay City Council accepted the plan last week. A number of district communities and First Nations have slammed the document. It calls for the Beardmore EMS base to be closed and for other bases, Terrace Bay and Scriber, as well as Nipigon and Red Rock, to be consolidated into two. District leaders also say there's been little to no consultation so far. The city staff and the consultants who developed the plan faced a number of questions Monday night.
Clearly, they don't feel like there was anything substantive or comprehensive enough that was consulted on. And so we still find ourselves here in this position of preparing to begin another consultation.
It was kind of purposefully set up to be data driven, and then maybe, the consultation would be happening in the latter part of it. Is there a reason for that?
That was the terms of reference of the project from the beginning, was to make it data based, and then once we saw what the data showed, to have the discussion at that point. In hindsight, should we have done it differently? Well, we're finding out we have to go back now and do it differently.
City officials say any changes that affect service either in Thunder Bay or across the district will need further approval from City Council before they're implemented. Ontario is providing money to train Indigenous workers here in the Northwest in preparation for the new Greenstone gold mine in Geraldton.
We are investing $3.6 million to support.
Labor Minister Monty McNaughton made the announcement Thursday. 150 people will be able to take part in the Indigenous Workplace Development Program. It will be led by Minotamin Development, which is a First Nations partnership between the AZA, Arolan, and Ganugaming First Nations, formed to advance the community's collective mining interests. AZA Chief Teresa Nelson says this new funding will help secure a prosperous future in her community.
To watch the industry die and come back to this area has been really unbelievable. And to be part of something so substantial and earth-shattering is, it's monumental, not just for my community, but for the other communities. It's an opportunity of a lifetime.
Northern families and especially Indigenous communities have really been hard hit. This is why it is more important than ever to help them start their journey to meaningful careers in the skilled trades. A good job is a source of dignity and pride. In construction and mining, many of these good jobs exist and are waiting to be filled today. This is going to be a really exciting.
Greenstone Gold has been working to develop the mine for many years, and there's still no firm start date for construction. Anyone interested in applying to take part in the Indigenous Workplace Development Program or companies looking to partner can visit the Minotamin Development website. When we come back, we'll take you inside the newly unveiled emergency room expansion at the Geraldton District Hospital. The new emergency room at the Geraldton District Hospital has officially opened its doors. It was part of a $17 million expansion at the facility with a number of upgrades and a more modern design. Christian Apostolowski reports.
Planning for the project started all the way back in 1999. The original plans also included several building upgrades. However, to speed up the approval process, the emergency department upgrade was submitted separately from the building plans. Construction for the project began in 2019.
This project was completed during COVID, on time, on budget, no infections. It was just a testament to multiple people's hard work, multiple groups and stakeholders' hard work. I can't say enough about our board as well as our staff. Our staff worked through this. They're coming together, and this is an amazing opportunity for everyone, and it's a real success.
The new emergency department includes a number of upgrades, which include a chemotherapy suite with 2 treatment spaces. There will also be 5 treatment rooms, as well as windows in some of them. Rooms will now have added ventilation when the door is closed to help filter the air. Another addition is an ultraviolet light in some of the rooms to help kill bacteria when the space is empty. Chief Nursing Executive Lori Harima spoke about the importance of keeping treatment close to home.
We have a state-of-the-art chemotherapy suite, which for me is essential because we don't want people on the roads. We want to keep care close to home. This way we get to treat our chemotherapy patients here near their loved ones when they're not feeling well. So we have a brand new suite which meets all of the Ontario College of Pharmacy standards.
Besides being much larger, the new look hospital includes a space for providing culturally appropriate support, along with a dedicated space for families.
So the new ER is an exciting time for our entire community. It's a long time coming. There's far more space, it's brighter, it's more accessible, it's safer, not only for patients, but for staff as well.
The new ER means the residents of Greenstone will have access to better healthcare closer to home. The renovation has brought state-of-the-art equipment and a state-of-the-art facility to Geraldton. For TBT News, I'm Christian Apostolowski.
Officials with the Township of Ignace are hailing the results of a recent survey regarding a potential major infrastructure project. The survey was initiated by the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. It's been studying an area west of Ignace for over a decade as a potential site for a nuclear waste storage facility. The survey was sent to 850 households, and 98% of respondents had heard of the agency prior to the survey. 92% were aware of the involvement of the community in the site selection process. Despite the survey results, Ignace Mayor Penny Lucas says it's still a bit too early to determine support or opposition for the project.
I would have to say, right now, I would call it 50-50. I hear from both sides, and I'm willing to listen to the concerns that are brought forward by the people who are against the project, whatever their reasons are, and try to help them learn more. If it's a safety issue, get them some safety information. If it's, it's going to be like the mines, and they're going to come and then they're going to go, and then we're going to be left with a mess, and that kind of stuff.
Ignace is one of 2 communities in the final running as a potential site for this project. Some controversy continues to swirl over the future of the bridge between Fort Frances and International Falls. It's prompted Fort Frances Council to seek support from the federal government to make the bridge a public asset. The bridge is currently owned by Packaging Corporation of America, who also owns the mill in International Falls, and Resolute Forest Products, the former owner of the mill in Fort Frances. Concerns began to mount when it was learned that Resolute was looking to divest itself from the bridge. In 2006, a public meeting revealed that one span of the structure had about 20 years left in its lifespan before requiring replacement at an estimated $8 million. It's also a toll bridge, and that money goes towards rehabilitation of the structure. The resolution expresses council's concern over potential increase in the toll amount, or that public access be removed due to safety or financial reasons. The resolution was passed unanimously and spurred some comments from council regarding the circumstances of the situation.
And we've got to make sure that this stays on the hot seat because it's critical.
I find it absolutely criminal that Resolute could or any corporation could collect tolls for years and years and then walk away with all the money and just leave the asset deteriorated in the form that it is.
The resolution has been sent to officials with both the federal and provincial governments and to other regional communities and organizations for support. Meanwhile, work is underway on an expansion at the Kenora District Jail. Local union representatives say it will have a positive impact on the facility. The facility has a long history of capacity issues. And now construction has started at the west end for an expansion of up to 50 new beds. The project will also include multi-use programming spaces, yard space, and a cultural yard to allow for programming and educational spaces. Wade Sutherland is the president of OPSEU Local 719. He's confident the additional beds and space will improve conditions at the jail, and he's been told the aesthetics of the expansion are considered more normalized.
You're not going to see the stainless steel seats and tables. It'll be more of the still security, like chairs, maybe couches, things like that. And instead of just the solid steel doors, they're going to be like a full wood grain. So they're going to make it look more like a building or a home or something.
Sutherland says how the new sections will be incorporated into the rest of the jail is still being discussed. Earlier this year, Bird Construction was awarded the contract. The province has yet to release a full cost of the expansion. It's expected to be complete by next summer. Coming up after the break, a Dryden area beekeeper is offering beekeeping courses to inmates. Things are buzzing in Dryden after a successful campaign by a local beekeeper to allow flowering weeds to grow in May for honeybee populations. As Adam Riley explains, that beekeeper has now brought the art and beauty of the honeybee to an area correctional facility.
A Dryden man who has made it his mission to save the bees is buzzing with excitement. This past May marked the first No Mow May in several communities across the Northwest, which allowed residents to let their grass and dandelions grow to give honeybees a steady source of pollen for the first few weeks of spring, which made beekeeper Regan Breeze very happy and blessed with support.
Seeing yellow all spring long and all the dandelions growing actually put a lot of beautiful colors to our landscape. And it was very honoring to see that, and for the bees to actually be able to have that assistance to having people allow their weeds to grow so that the bees will show.
And with some of the restrictions on public gatherings due to COVID-19 being lifted, Breeze is looking forward to offering his junior beekeeping courses once again for children. But that isn't the only thing keeping Breeze as busy as, well, a bee. He's also celebrating a milestone which has brought several businesses and locations on board who have set up beehives on their property, including the Kenora District Jail. It is there where he is beginning to offer classes on beekeeping for inmates, a first of its kind in Canada, according to Breeze.
Educational courses are one of the biggest things that inmates like to attain to pass the time, and it allows them to be reintegrated back into society to do some positives. We all make mistakes in our life, and they can possibly pass on those teachings as well.
Breeze says he isn't quite done yet, noting he still has a few surprises and projects up his sleeve. Adam Riley, TBT News.
That's all for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.